Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts to the 6th episode of the 7th season of one of my favorite shows ever, Fear the Walking Dead. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, this one was easily the worst episode of the season so far. I guess each season is going to have that one episode that is a boring slog to get through that doesn't really have much substance to it, and I just couldn't pay attention to it. Although this one definitely is not as bad as episode 7 of last season, but it's still very much in the same vein of just nothing, no substance that has any connection to anything that is happening. And it's even more annoying that it's like that because this is like the final episode for Althea. She's off the show, which, yeah, it makes sense, I guess, but I don't know. I think it did enough for her character, but maybe I feel like maybe the writing and what they were trying to do with her character in this episode could have been maybe a little bit more obvious, because I can see that they were trying something with the writing for this episode for her character, and showing parallels and everything, and having Morgan interview Althea and everything, but I just don't quite get the whole picture, you know? And yeah, I say that this is a bad episode, but it's not bad in the sense where it's like badly written or there's dumb moments throughout it. I don't think so. In that regard, I think it's actually fairly solid. It's the way that it is bad is that it's supposedly a CRM episode, an episode in which we're hopefully going to learn more about the CRM, although we've learned quite a lot in World Beyond, so I don't know what that would have, what could they possibly have told us in this episode that we didn't already know. But that's the thing, they didn't say shit in this episode. Throughout the whole episode, like at the very least it could have been interesting to get the main characters of Fear the Walking Dead, like Dwight and Morgan and Strand and Alicia and whoever, learn some things about the CRM. At least we could possibly get satisfaction from that. But we didn't really even get that in this episode, because throughout the whole episode, whenever Morgan asks Althea questions about why the CRM is after her, she keeps saying, it's better if you don't know. And it really started to piss me off by the third time she said it. Because, like, that is just such a lazy way. Like, I feel like she could have told some things about Morgan without putting him in danger, because I understand why she doesn't want to say anything to him about him, because that would protect him, because usually the CRM doesn't necessarily go after people that it doesn't consider a threat, and if you don't know about the CRM, they probably won't consider you a threat. So not telling Morgan anything is safe, makes it safer for him. But they were after him in this episode anyway, so well, they were after Althea and her girlfriend, whose name I forgot, but they also ended up being after Morgan in this episode, so they could easily be after him in some other episodes in the future as well. But it just bothers me that it didn't really lead to anything. It was just a filler episode with tons of action, which, yeah, it was cool, but I wish there was some substance to that action, because the most substance you get from this episode is that throughout the episode we get kind of like flashbacks with Althea and her girlfriend Isabel, I think that's what her name was, and they were recording with the camera, and it really annoyed me every time they showed those flashbacks throughout the episode, because it was just Althea talking to the fucking camera, which was annoying. Like, we didn't even hear Isabel reply in the background or whatever, and I thought it was gonna be maybe because they couldn't get the actress, so they were using like some way to get around that, because they couldn't get her for the finale last season, so they just used a standing without showing her face. But no, at the end of the episode we see her, and by the way, I gotta say, she's looking damn hot now, and she also reminds me of some other character from Fear the Walking Dead, but I'm not exactly sure which one it was. I think it might remind me of the doctor character from all the way back of season 1. That one doctor that ends up taking care of people at the military base or facility or whatever the military was staying at in season 1, that takes Eliza, Chris's mom, and Travis's ex-wife, to help her. She now looks straight up like her, I feel like. I'll probably, during editing, I'll try to put 2 pictures of them side by side for you to see, but she looks really quite a lot like her now. And I think her haircut now looks much better than the bowl cut that she had before. I don't understand why all the flipping female CRM soldiers have to look so bad and have such bad haircuts, because Huck also, Huck from The Walking Dead World Beyond also had very bad haircut back in season 1, but now looks much better. Jadis looks terrible with her haircut, and now Isabel looked bad with her haircut in season 5, I think it was, and now looks much better. But yeah, that's pretty much the substance of this episode. The rest of it is just kind of pointless action, which, yeah, I enjoyed the action. I think it was fine action. I just wish I had some more emotional attachment to the action. Because, like, when we watched the trailer and when there was, like, leaked pictures and stuff of Morgan being held at gunpoint by, obviously, a CRM soldier, we thought that we could maybe Morgan was going to learn things about Rick, because currently in timeline-wise, Fear the Walking Dead is about at the time when Rick gets taken, so it could be interesting to get more information on that, but they didn't really do that now, did they? But it could have been cool, but it's just like nothing, so there's not even anything to talk about in regards to that, so this review is probably going to end up being very short. The most I can mention, outside of the things that I've already mentioned, is the cool kill that Althea does with the cannon. It feels a little convoluted, and it, as other people on the subreddit, even Fear the Walking Dead, have pointed out, it really feels like the writers and the showrunners come up with a cool idea, be it a walker kill or just a cool concept, and try to build up to that moment and come up with the story surrounding that moment. So the moment ends up being really cool, but the story around it is not necessarily as cool. Instead of just letting the story flow into the moment. And that is something even I, as a writer, which for those of you who don't know, yes, I do write, although not as much as I want to write. I have an ongoing zombie story called Dead Inside. It's on Wattpad. It's linked in the description down below. You should check it out. But like, even I as a writer kind of sometimes fall into this trap where instead of just letting the story flow naturally into where it should go or where I feel like I can take it, sometimes I just come up with an interesting idea, and it's hard to make the story flow in that direction. Because, like, for example, here's some behind the scenes stuff about the story. There is a scrapped idea that I had where the main character was gonna be stuck in a police cell, and she had to use her wits to attract the zombies away to get out of the cell. But obviously, because my story, it's not like a visual medium, it was hard to really come up with a way to explain it without coming off as like a lot of exposition, and it was hard to make the story flow logically to the conclusion where the character is gonna end up in the prison cell. So I kind of scrapped that idea completely, and maybe at some point in the future I'll include it some way, but yeah, that is a little bit behind the scenes. So yeah, it's a shame, because I feel like this could have been easily the best episode of the season, because in a way it's probably the most polished or the one with the least flaws, because like there's no moments where I was necessarily like bored by the episode in terms of like the things that were happening were like boring. In this episode, if I was bored by it, it was because it just didn't have substance. Like, I'm hoping that I'm able to explain to you the difference between those two things, because in an episode like episode 3, which was of this season, which was the John Dory and June episode, at times it felt boring because the hallucinations whenever the Walking Dead universe does hallucinations, it's just kind of boring because you know whatever happens in the hallucination, it just doesn't matter. It has no consequences, so I feel like less interested in it. So in that episode, I was kind of bored by the events that were actually happening. In this episode, I was bored because none of the events I wanted to happen were happening. And none of the substance of the episode that I wanted to be there was there. But otherwise, it feels very polished and it has very few imperfections or flaws. It's a really very complete episode, which is why it's weird for me to rate this episode, because based on those aspects of it, like where it feels polished, I kind of want to give it like a 9 out of 10 because it feels like a very, very polished episode. It doesn't feel like a first draft or anything of the sorts. It feels like a complete episode. But in terms of substance, it's very fucking lacking. So I feel like, as a kind of like a middle ground, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10 because I think this is still a very much enjoyable episode, and the action that we get in the episode was great. Like, I loved the helicopter chasing the truck. I loved the CRM soldiers shooting at Morgan and LT and them escaping through the underpass with all the destroyed cars and everything. And I loved the cannon death. That was really fucking cool, but there's just not really much substance. And also the time where Morgan and Grace were being held at gunpoint by the CRM soldiers, that was really cool as well. But yeah, there's just not much substance in this episode. They were trying to add some substance at least for the Althea stuff and her character, and this being her final episode. But even that really didn't have much, or at least I don't quite understand what exactly they were trying to do with her character in this episode. So yeah, maybe some of you guys know better than me. Comment down below. And yeah, in general, what did you guys think about this episode? Comment down below and let's have a discussion about it. And yeah, before we end this video, I also want to give a huge shout out and thanks to my currently 3 patrons on Patreon: Omari Bridgman, Deadpool, and Lemonade. Thank you guys for supporting me. It really means a lot. I hope you continue to enjoy my content for a long time, and you continue to support me for a long time, because it just really means a lot that literally anybody has enjoyed my content enough to decide to support me monetarily through my Patreon. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad, where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon, where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!